Okay, so I'm not an artist, but I do have a great appreciation for art. And that would include paintings, woodwork, and pottery. Like this piece. I find pottery to be beautiful, but it's also fragile and delicate, which is actually a good representation of our lives. The biblical scriptures tell us that we have treasure in jars of clay. Listen as I read 2 Corinthians 4:7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. And the clay jar that this is speaking of is our physical bodies. Our bodies, like clay jars, come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. And like clay jars, they're fragile and breakable. So let's spend our moments together thinking about the treasure. What treasure do we have in these fragile bodies of ours? And can anything hinder us from this treasure? So the first question, what treasure do we have in these bodies, in these clay jars of ours? Let me begin by retelling this story. There was nothing on the earth. It was dark over the deep sea. A bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. And the Spirit of God was moving and hovering over the face of the waters. And God spoke, I command light to shine. And the light started shining. And God saw the light was good, and He separated light from dark. Now, the true and living God who spoke light out of darkness has flooded our hearts with His light to let us know that His divine greatness is seen in the face of Christ. And so this treasure, it's the message of good news and of hope. God invites us. No, He bids us to find our place in His story. He has demonstrated His love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for the ungodly through the life, death, and resurrection of Christ. He reversed that sad human dilemma so that we could live in Him and live with the expectation of a restored world without the presence of evil. My friends, that we would be given this treasure, it shows that He is the one who has all-surpassing power, not us. He is the one who created all things from nothing, and He's the one that provides reconciliation. And in our fragile, breakable bodies, hardships seem to get the upper hand. Things go wrong and the wheels seem to fall off of our lives. Some of us struggle with mental health issues, others with sicknesses. Some of us struggle with suppressed emotional wounds. Others of us have physical limitation that hinders an active life. The truth is that we all face some sort of hard battle. No one gets off. Paul said this, we are hard-pressed, crushed, perplexed, and persecuted. Yet by finding our place in God's redemptive story, we're not crushed, we're not in despair, we're not abandoned, we're not destroyed. Which brings us to our key spiritual insight. Through Christ, we have the treasure of living hope in fragile bodies of clay. Can anything hinder us from this treasure? Yes, yes it can. Listen to verse 4 of chapter 4. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. The God of this age is the enemy of our soul, Satan. He works to blind us from reconciliation with God. And it's not so much through ghosts and ghouls and goblins, but there is a battlefield. and it's the battle for your mind. Satan wants to get you to think that God's truth is untrue, that it's out of date. Satan wants you to think that there's no God, or that you're God. He wants you to think that God couldn't care less about you and is holding out on you. Another story. The serpent was more crafty than any wild animals that God had made. And the serpent said to the woman in the Garden of Eden, "You won't die. God knows that the day you eat from it, you will see clearly, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So she took its fruit and ate it, and also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Satan is a liar and a deceiver, and he is intent on your ruin. He's the one who led the whole world astray, and he will lead us astray again from the treasure of living hope. Be clear-minded. Keep alert. Your adversary, the devil, is on the prowl like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Don't let his mind trickery cause you to turn away from the treasure of the living hope that we have in Christ.